How's it guys, Carl here. I hope you're all doing well. So welcome to this little video. It is a pre-recorded video of a question that is often asked. What lights do I buy when I'm starting out? Or what lights do I buy for a specific use that I'm actually doing? So I did a demo at one of the colleges in Centurion, the higher education colleges there in Centurion, and they were looking very much for continuous lights because they needed something that was going to be quickly be able to be set up. You don't have to worry about the flash triggers and everything else. And that's all great because that is what they need within their environment. They need, say for instance, the makeup artist. They want to just put a light up. The makeup artist then take a picture of their makeup and move on. So that type of scenario, the continuous lights will work pretty good. There is some circumstances where continuous lights won't necessarily work as well as flash in some environments. Like for instance, if I'm doing a live stream, I've got all these continuous lights actually running all on the ceiling and it's lighting up the cyc wall. If I now had to bring continuous lights in, I would have to dim or bring these lights down so I can actually control the light and the environment. With flash, I don't have to do that. I can control that ambient all with my camera and I'm not going to say anymore. I'm just going to do it. So in studio today I have Dolly, and the actual lights I'm going to be using, or the continuous lights, this is the LA200D. So this is daylight. So this will be your 500-600 Kelvin. So if you're doing portraiture and stuff or video work, this should be more than ample to actually do for that type of stuff if you're wanting the daylight lights. Now obviously the first light I'm going to be using is the AD400Pro. Not for any specific reason, it's just on the light stand. And then I've got the H400P extension head on that. And also again, not for any reason. Softbox is the QRP90T, also just on the light, but this softbox is actually on this light quite a lot, so that's pretty much a stock standard type of setup that I would have in studio. And then we have Dolly. Dolly is our standing model when we don't actually have anybody to actually shoot, so we're going to use her today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically do one light setup. I'm going to be controlling the environment, okay, by my camera, my trigger, and using the flash. Now that is an easy thing for me to do. Even in this bright area, I can literally go to my sync speed. That's going to be 250th of a second on my R6. And also the aperture is going to be f8 and ISO 100. So that's the settings I'm going to normally start off with. That is my go-to settings when I'm in studio and I'm actually in this brighter environment. X3 Pro is quite nice because it's a nice big screen and it is touchscreen. I've also got the Nano, and so let's get this one set up. What I'm going to do is typical sort of setup. Ooh, that is my tape. And we're going to angle the light down and lift it up. Okay. I'm just going to put that down there. Okay, so we've got this. Now this is much a typical type of setup that you would see. The light, the model, 45 degrees. Let's turn the light on. Okay. And I think this is on A. And for this, I know I said it's a bigger screen, but I'm gonna still see with my glasses. So I'm gonna put this about 1/8 power. Okay. I'm gonna put my camera f8, 250th of a second, and I'm gonna take my ISO down to 100. All right. Take the lens cap off, otherwise we'll definitely get a black screen. But what I'm going to do is turn my flash trigger off and get my tethering cable set up. So now we have the tether cable set up and I have my tethering software open. A lot of people ask me, what tethering software do you use? I find Capture One to be the most reliable. I'm not sponsored or paid by Capture One by any joy. I pay my subscription, but it's the only one that I can find that is actually reliable. And Lightroom seems to have a problem with the R6 Mark III. It says it's connecting, but nothing actually happens after that. So I thought, no, enough of this. I'm going back to my Capture One. So that is what I'm using. And the cable that I use, you can see it's a bright orange cable. So this is actually a Tether Tools cable, which I actually got from Outdoor Photo in 4 ways. So you can actually get them there. This is the 9.5 or 10 meter length light, so cable, because I am walking around all over the studio. So let me take a shot here. I'm going to get the tethering software up. All right, so my camera is on, my settings are set, my flash trigger is off, and boom. So that's cool. So I've actually controlled the environment. So even though I've got all these lights on, when I take a photograph now with this, I'm getting a black canvas. So with the black canvas, we can now add in some light. So I'm just going to put that on, do a test, fires, and I'm starting at about at 1/8 power. And we've got an exposure there. Maybe a little bit dark. Let's just see. Maybe 2/3. Okay. So we've got our gray background because the white background is not being lit. There is some light getting there. That's why it's not black. But that's pretty much a stock standard type image that we would actually do. So we will try and replicate that with the actual continuous lights as well, and show you what we have to do to actually get it to do that. Okay, just going to turn it this way. And there we go, a darker image. And we can actually throw a bit of light in as well, just to give us okay. So there you go. So pretty much stock standard. We've controlled the light. We've got all these bright video lights on, and we're still being able to get images like that one. It's definitely on this side. it's very confusing when I'm looking at the comfort monitor. It's definitely on this side, so we can actually control the light to get images like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it up a bit, because you can pretty much see we can actually control the light quite easily with flash. And let's bring in one of the continuous lights and set that up. Okay, so the first thing you're going to notice is I'm going to have to plug in power and run cables. I've got some plug points into the ceiling, so I'll probably just run some power from the ceiling. But yeah, cables. So that's going to be the one thing that almost turns me off a little bit. But the light itself is pretty awesome. Comes with a little protective plastic over the LED. I'm just going to put it onto the softbox. I'm going to use exactly the same softbox, so I don't get you guys out there telling me the difference is because of the softbox. Nope. Okay. And get this one on. So this has got a three pin, almost like an XLR type sort of connection. All right, and I'm going to run some power, probably from the ceiling there. I've got another cable here. So this actual box uses like your standard kettle. They call it a kettle plug cable. I don't know if that's even the correct term for it, but everyone seems to use that. And it's like that 3-pin, like your laptop power, and plugs in. You can actually control this also on the app. So instead of having to do the stuff manually on the back of the light, you can actually do it on your phone. I did demo that to the college the other day as well. And my microphone has come out. Okay. Here we go. So we actually have the light. So let's see what we've actually got here. Now, if I take a shot now, same settings as what my flash was set up on my camera. What's going to happen? It's going to be very dark. So if it's now very dark, what have I got to do? I've got to now open up, slow down my shutter, up my ISO, and I'm going to keep my aperture at f8 because I want the same type of depth of field that I actually had on the actual shot. So what's going to happen if I now put my ISO up to 400? What do you think is going to happen to this image? We've got the studio lights on, and I've got this cool image, but am I really getting just this light? Nope, I'm getting all of these lights. So I'm going to turn off. Sure, it is bright. I'm going to turn off all those lights. So I've gone up in my ISO. And there we go. It's not bad. So I've lifted my ISO up. I'm still shooting at 250th of a second. So I'm still getting that faster shutter speed. and it's not so bad. And then we've got there, and then I'm going to just bring the board in, just like I did with flash. But now already I can already see the fill actually coming in on the side. This light is sitting at 95%, but we've got a shot pretty much how we did on the actual flash of 45. And then just getting different angles. And working with it like that. Okay, so working with continuous lights, I do have to turn off all the studio lights, and I think yes, you can still see me in on the live stream, but sometimes it's just better to have these lights on, actually doing the video and using flash. So, but the LA200D works pretty cool. As I said, this is about 95%, but it is a 200, and the light is actually quite close as well. But you can actually see where your light is going to be. So if I do that, and I'm going to drop my shutter speed to 1/25th, and we should get a dark, almost black background. If I turn this light off, which we're going to be in darkness, I'm sure. Okay, I'm in complete darkness. So if my camera will also be in complete darkness. Okay, simple as that. So what are the things? You've got to control the environment both ways. Either you actually darken everything down, or you actually just use flash and use your camera to lighten everything up. Now we've got this big light on here. I'm going to turn this one off. There we go. So you can actually control the environments either way. It's entirely up to you on how you work, obviously. But using continuous light to do portraits, you got to make sure that you darken your room down. And that I can do quite easily in studio, as you saw. But not everybody can, because they may have a big window. Then you have to make sure you get like a block out panel or some block out curtains, just to cut all that ambient light out. Okay, so that's the other thing that you gotta also think about. So whatever your environment is like where you are shooting, just be aware of those type of things. Okay, so there you have it. I've used flash very quickly to actually get the image that I wanted, and then I actually used the continuous light, a daylight continuous light, to get the same type of looking images. Easier, more difficult, who knows? I can see exactly what the exposure is going to be with a continuous light. Obviously, over time with experience, I know how flash works. I know what I need to do to sort of get the exposures right, to get the angles of the light right, and have an understanding on how light actually works. And also being familiar with the product is a big thing, especially in different spaces. Your power outputs are going to be slightly different to me shooting here or you shooting at home in a smaller space or a bigger space. So it's those type of things. It's all trial and error at the end of the day. But as a photographer, with a mirrorless camera, 400 ISO, 2/50th of a second or 1/25th of a second, f8, you can actually get a perfectly exposed portrait without any issues whatsoever. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this little demonstration actually helped. And if you have any questions or if you're wanting to find out more about any of the Godox gear, you can actually go to www.godox.co.za. And if you are going to purchase any Godox gear, you can actually go onto that same website, use the coupon code GodoxCarlD, which should be appearing on the bottom of the screen. And that is it. I'm Carl Daniels. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.